It's good to have you once again on SAICE TV. My name is Buhle Hlachwayo and we're here at the Wits University for the Wits Roadshow. And this is the time where we reach out to the civil engineering students at Wits and we let them know why it's very important to become a member of SAICE. SAICE CEO Manglin Play speaks to the students more about SAICE, what they stand for, and how they can cater to the students once they become members.
Your holidays now, right? Don't go home and have a holiday. Take a long weekend holiday at home. When you come to this June experience that's coming up, your December experience now, you're going to write your exam and now you're going to have like 2 months to bugger it out. Yeah? Go home for the Christmas period. The rest of your time, find a place, a company, where you can either go and volunteer and you can do it at home. When I first got a hold of this thing, I was in 4th year. When I got a hold of it, my 4th year, I actually went to my bursary company. And guess what I did? I did coffee, I learned who the boss is with, who shouts loudest, how they ride.
PPS is a financial service that caters towards graduate professionals, especially those in the civil engineering field. PPS representative Michelle Felix tells us more about what they have to offer.
Actually becoming a member of PPS, and that means you share in the profits of PPS. I mean, you need your life insurance, you need your medical aid, you need car insurance, you need to protect your practice one day when you go to private practice as well. And that's where we are different, because you need all of these things. Being a member of PPS, every year you will get profits paid into your account. Alright, not the stock exchange. We know that other companies have market companies and they register on the stock exchange and things like that, not PPS. So you, the members, share in our profits. No, we don't. Our risk pool is much smaller than the rest of the insurance companies, and the premiums are cheaper.
Do you have to be a graduate? So you wouldn't.
You have to be a graduate. You have to have a 4-year degree. If you don't have a 4-year degree, you cannot be part of PPS. And you can join student benefits start in a 4th year. So the minute you're in your 4th year, you can apply and you become a student benefit.
I'm joined by Michelle Felix, who is the Professional Associate Liaison of PPS. And I'm also joined by SAICE CEO, Mr. Manglin Play. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to SAICE TV.
My pleasure.
All right, so I would like to start off by asking, how has the partnership been between PPS as well as SAICE?
PPS does a lot of sponsorships for SAICE, and I think it's beneficial for both of us, because we as an organisation need your people to be part of our association, because you're our members. Your association is part of our membership, so we need your members just as well as they need sponsorships from us as well. So it's a mutual thing for both companies.
Right, and I'd also like to hear what Manglin's got to say regarding the partnership between the two.
Well, it's been an interesting engagement. I think PPS's relationship with the professionals is a well-known one. The products that they offer are absolutely valuable. It's a unique product in that the members actually own the organization, or certainly share in the profits of the organization, and that's what's unique about it. If we look at the life expectancy of civil engineers in general, civil engineers live well into the 80s, 90s, some of them in the early hundreds. So we do need to plan for that future, and spending money for those investments, for retirement, for insurance and so on. It's best to spend it on the company that you're going to share the profits in. So we see that kind of partnership, and it's certainly benefited SAICE and civil engineering, the civil engineering profession in the country.
And I'd just like to ask, has there been a huge increase when it comes to SAICE members being a part of PPS? Would you say it's the majority of the organisation that's a part of it?
I wouldn't say it's the majority of the organisation, but there is an increase. Definitely there is an increase since this partnership has been working so well. It's also one of our biggest associations.
And just lastly, since we're dealing with graduates and also students, hence we're being here today, does PPS offer any financial aid to students, whether it's scholarships, bursaries for civil engineering students?
Yes, we do. We do have bursaries. Our bursaries open in November. We don't have the figures and the amounts right now, but they do open in November, and we will be discussing that, and we will be doing more marketing around, revolving around the bursaries.
And lastly, before I let you both go, what is the one advice you would like to give to a civil engineering student right now?
Start saving. Start saving for your future. Definitely.
All right, and any advice from your side, Mr. Pillay?
Look, I think financial management is a big part, not of personal growth only, but also professional growth. So learn financial management.
Avinash Menon speaks more on how important it is to brand yourself and how that is seen as a powerhouse. In addition, he gives advice on how to make sure you make the best first impression.
So you need somebody who's credible. Yeah? So it can be your professors, it can be somebody, maybe somebody from the church where you volunteer, but you need to make that call on will they give you a good referral. If somebody calls me and says, okay, your name is on, you're the referee for some guy, Tsepo, as an example. I'm like, who the hell is Tsepo? So they're calling me now to say, okay, would you recommend Tsepo? I'm like, who the hell is Tsepo? So don't tell the people that you're going to put their name down and say, okay, are you going to give me a good reference? You need to think for yourself, is this person really going to give me a good reference or not? Then put the person down with their name and number. Alright, the next one is how you look. Global studies have shown that 60% is about how you look. It's about the image. It's about the reputation. 60%. Really.
On my left, I'm joined by Linda Masetu, who is the Secretary of SAICE Wits Student Chapter. I'm also joined here by Suvaksh Sumer, who is the Vice Chairperson, and lastly, Mpho Muleya, who is in charge of events. A good afternoon to all of you guys and a warm welcome to SAICE TV.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
All right, so I just want to ask you guys, what is SAICE Wits Student Chapter and where did it all begin?
The student chapter, I'd say, it probably started about 3 or 4 years ago. So it was just a group of students that were interested in SAICE and that had the visions that SAICE had. So we decided to come together and start creating events for the students. And we didn't have much funds, but we just put together what we had and we've grown year after year. And yeah, it's become what it is today.
Right. And I see you mentioned events. What kind of events specifically do you do for the civil engineering students?
So with the upcoming events, we have speed mentoring. So basically what it is like it's speed dating, where you have like 5 minutes with a engineer or we have graduates, we have people that own their own companies. So you have 5 minutes to ask them anything. So it's basically we try to create a platform for you to engage with the people where usually it will be very rare that you're able to engage with them.
So it's actually like the whole concept. It's almost like speed dating. I love that. And I would like to ask as well, what can we expect from SAICE Wits Student Chapter in the future?
So basically, as I did speak about the vision of SAICE, so most of our events which we have planned, example, there's a talk talks which will happen regularly. So it's basically again trying to bridge the gap between the industry, guys at industry, and students. So that's basically what we're trying to do, is bridge that gap. So we'll have talks put in place to ensure a platform that the students can engage with professionals.
And lastly, before I let you guys go, how are you finding the Wits Roadshow so far?
It was very fruitful. As a fourth year student, some of us would want to come back and study further, but then we were advised that it would be better to get experience first so that we can major in things that we are really actually interested in, like proper fields, because I could be interested in hydraulics, but then I get to work and it's not something that I wanted to do. So things like that. And in terms of qualifications, what to do exactly and what would fit in my time frame if I want to be working full time. Yeah, so that was actually fruitful and we enjoyed the whole experience entirely. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us once again on SAICE TV. I'm joined here by Kirsten Coles, who's the chairperson of SAICE Wits Student Chapter. Kirsten, thank you so much for joining us on SAICE TV.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I would love to find out from you, What does it mean to be chairperson for SAICE Wits Student Chapter?
I think it's such a huge honor and pleasure. It's a really exciting opportunity to be able to interact. Previously, I was a member initially, and then I was in events, and now being the chairperson, I feel like it's been really something that I've worked towards, and it's really something. And I mean, we have great mentors who we've come into contact with. So for me, that it puts me in a position where I feel very confident to sort of engage on that level, and that's exciting for me.
It's absolutely fantastic. And I would love to know, how did the student chapter of Wits get involved with SAICE to put together the roadshow?
Awesome. So we're quite lucky with our sponsor, with PPS sponsoring the actual event. It's the second time that we're hosting it. We hosted it last year as well, also very successful. So I think we've had that sort of experience, and so it was sort of a carry on from last year.
And what can we expect from the student chapter in many years to come?
We're expecting really, really exciting things. So what we're sort of working on is a very slow progression, building up towards things that are going to impact our students in the long term, which is something we haven't done previously. For example, we're working on our book drive, and also a drive where we're collecting drawing boards for our first years, many of whom don't afford their drawing boards. So we've already collected some this year, and we're working throughout this year towards gathering some more from first years who've completed the courses this year. So next year we're able to help more people, and I think that's really exciting for us, and it's a huge learning curve because we've learned what it means to start planning a year in advance, which is maybe possibly something we weren't doing previously. So that for us is really exciting to see the impact of that next year.
Joy Barenza speaks more about the decisions every graduate needs to make, whether to further their studies or to jump straight into the professional field of civil engineering. In addition, she gives advice.
Then you also have the option of doing your MBA, right? So your MBA is a master in business administration, and many students, like myself back then, had the perception that if I come out with an engineering degree and I go and do an MBA, I'm automatically going to become a CEO of a company. And nowadays, unfortunately, that's not the case anymore, because there's more and more people coming out with that same combination. So you need to be very careful if you decide to do an MBA on what you actually want to achieve with it. Because there's many engineers who go do an MBA, and unfortunately you don't reach an executive or even a management position in your company. You could also decide to go and do a master's degree that is more specialized in engineering, and at a later stage decide to do an MBA, depending on how you decide to do your postgrad. Immediately do your master's and immediately do your PhD, and then try to find a job. You're going to have a real tough time because you have no experience, and you'll be about 30 years old, and the other 30-year-olds have like 6 years of experience behind them. And the one sad fact is that you will all find and realize once you get into industry is that you actually know nothing.
Young engineers Khulile Mashele and Trevor Ngalo speak of their personal experiences from how they transitioned from being students to being employees in the field of civil engineering.
Become limited, and that's the reason why I personally left. Generally, not because I was unhappy or I didn't leave because there was a better salary somewhere else. I left because after 4.5 years I realized that all I know is structural steel. I'd go sit with my friends somewhere and they'd be talking about concrete and they'd be talking about roads and transportation and this and that, and I knew nothing of those. So that was, for me, that was the con, that unless you want to become an expert in that field, it's good to stay there. But it is limiting in a sense.
NMT in public transport infrastructure. So by NMT, basically non-motorized transport, we're talking about cyclists, we're talking about people who are walking, and people in wheelchairs, you know. So for pedestrian safety, we made proposals for in red there.
I'm right here with Karabo Muhlame, who is a strategic partnership liaison from SAICE. Karabo, thanks so much for joining us on SAICE TV.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I want to find out from you. Usually, what is the transition like from being a student to being a young professional in the field of civil engineering, and how can one make it a smooth transition?
I think to make it a smooth transition, what you need to do is to find a mentor real quick. You need to join professional bodies like your SAICE, your ECSA. Try to find people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, so that they can guide your way. Usually your mentor should be about maybe a gap of 5 years. You don't want to find an old mentor because then there's no connection. But at the same time, you don't want to find too much of a young mentor, just in case they don't have that much experience to pull you in the right direction. If you do that, I think your transition should be fine. It should be easy, it should be guided, it should be in the right direction, I think.
All right. And how have you been finding the experience at the Wits Roadshow so far?
The experience is good. I think it's a good initiative to come back to universities and tell people about how to get their foot into the door of working, how they should do it better than we did it. Tell them about the pitfalls, what not to do and what to do. I think it's a good thing.
All right. And lastly, if you were to give a civil engineering student one piece of advice, what would it be?
It's not about the money. The money will come, but it's not about the money.
Absolutely, for sure. Thank you so much once again, Karabo.
Thank you.
We have come and we have conquered, and so it is the end of yet another SAICE event. From myself, Buhle Hlatshwayo, do make sure you tune into another event courtesy of SAICE. Toodles!